Has enough of the country been hit hard enough by reality to change their mind, or did the beatings have to continue? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Virtue Signal. I'm Bill Whittle here with my friend Alfonzo Rachel, and you probably know the drill by now. Zoe, I had a kind of I don't know if it's a major realization, but maybe it'll help a little bit. Crime is at all-time, 25, 30, 40, 50-year highs in New York City, Chicago, Portland, everywhere. Crime's going through the ceiling. And yet, I suppose we'll know more in a couple weeks after the midterm elections, and yet, people seem to keep voting for the same folks. And it doesn't make any sense. And I was trying to figure out why that was. And one of the things that may explain this is something called the sunk cost fallacy. It's an extremely powerful psychological motivator. And basically, well, here's the description of it. Sunk cost fallacy is the phenomenon whereby a person is reluctant to abandon a strategy or a course of action because they have invested heavily in it, even when it's clear that abandonment would be more beneficial. One of the first examples I ever heard of this many years ago was when a number of these televangelists like Jerry Falwell or Jim Baker, those kind of guys, when there was overwhelming proof that these guys were not only stealing money, but were morally reprehensible people. And a number of their followers disappeared, significant number, but a significant number of them also increased their donations. And it was explained to me that the reason they increased their donations after discovering that these guys were frauds, or at least after the world discovered that, was because they had sent so much money to these men over the years that the idea that they could have wasted that money, that all of that money, and we're talking about people in real hardship who were sending Social Security checks to these guys. The idea that they could have been wrong about that and that all of that money was wasted was overwhelming. It was so overwhelming that it overwhelmed their ability to see the truth that was right in front of their eyes, including confessions from these people. So that's what sunk cost fallacy is you've got so much sunk, you've got so much time or effort or emotion or money or ideology or whatever sunk into a system that even though the evidence becomes overwhelming that this isn't working, you don't want to give it up. And that certainly seems to be the case with what I see in terms of crime. I see it in terms of things like people they're still wearing the COVID masks here in my building in Los Angeles. And I suspect that's sunk cost fallacy too. People have too much invested in the fact that we follow the science and Fauci is right and all the rest of it. But in terms of changing the way people vote, makes you wonder, really. I guess my question is, do you think there's ever going to be anything strong enough to snap people out of this?
Well, I mean, we exist in the natural, man, and everything in the natural's got a shelf life. Things decay. So in terms of, when this will turn around, let me just go ahead and just say it like this. It's not that I'm not hopeful. It's not that I'm a pessimist or anything like that. But in terms of like my hope in what we're going to do to turn this around, I don't place my hope in that. My hope is in the Lord. He's the actual rescue for this. And that's what I, lean on to keep my sanity so I don't become part of the decay. But of course, there's going to be more crime out there because, you mentioned COVID. Shoot, they were letting prisoners out of jail. So it's like, there's more criminals on the street. And that's more kind of sanity. It's like, why would you guys do that? And why do you guys keep voting for these kind of people who make these kind of policies? But to answer your question about, when you have these people who would still give money to these preachers who have, these fallen preachers, these false preachers and stuff like that. Well, when you have them go before the camera, and I think, back kind of like when Saturday Night Live was still funny, they would have those skits and and the girl would be like doing Tammy Baker and they would do these preachers and, crying and stuff like that. Well, if you're a real Christian, I'm going to put it in quotes, you should be able to forgive them for their transgression. So when they go before the cameras and they go before their congregation and they admit their guilt and stuff like that, I've sinned before you and I've sinned before the Lord, but you can show that you have the power of forgiveness and you can go ahead and get out that checkbook and you can sow you a seed for $1,000 and show that you're really forgiven. You're walking in it. So you're going to have people who will do stuff like that. And at the same time, you're going to have people, well, what if I was in that position? I wouldn't want to be judged harshly either. And that's when they read things like, thou shalt not judge, while leaving out a whole bunch of context about what that actually means. The point is to not judge hypocritically. The point is to not, be so focused on the splinter in somebody else's eye while you got a telephone pole sticking out of yours. So it's that kind of thing. So, to kind of answer your question, I think a lot of the culture puts up with a lot of this stuff because there is such an aversion to be judged. And they don't want to be judged any more than, that. So they try to avoid judging anybody else. But at the same time, I noticed that America, despite this aversion to judging people, is becoming the most judgmental people. It doesn't seem to work.
Yeah. Funny how that works. I think that this sunk cost thing is magnified enormously by the power of social media. I think it's the kind of thing where if you had a small circle of friends or family, like everybody did back before you had thousands and thousands of friends and, hundreds of thousands of followers and all that jazz. If you changed your mind about something, or even if you were thinking about changing your mind about something, you would have a conversation with the people and they knew you. So even if you changed your mind into something that they didn't particularly like politically, they'd known you long enough so that they didn't think you were a Nazi because you voted differently than them. And so changing your mind was a lot easier back then. But now, since so much social recognition, for some people anyway, so much of their identity, that's the term I'm looking for, is based in belonging to some of these groups, this sunk cost fallacy becomes enormously more powerful. Because now you can be the kind of person who's living in New York and you can remember when Rudy Giuliani, who was a Republican who you hated and cursed, made that a livable town. And you've watched as Bill de Blasio, and then, even more so lately, you've watched all of these people that you voted for make the city unbearably worse. And yet, to change your mind about this and say, wow, I guess I was wrong. Looks like the Republicans ran a city that, was a livable place, and the people I voted for really messed things up. To change your mind now means to lose your identity. All of your friends are gone. You just get all of this condemnation. How many times have we heard the story of a gay conservative or black conservatives or women or whatever, who, in some cases, let's say somebody was a formerly outspoken gay advocate and then comes out and says, I've been looking around and talking to people and I realize that the Republicans are not the monsters we made them out to be. And furthermore, my team is. I can't call myself a liberal anymore. Tulsi Gabbard just did this. And then instantly, the attacks that they had always been told would come from conservatives and the hate and the vitriol and all the other stuff comes from their own team because they've changed their mind. So the question I keep asking is there a threshold where reality overwhelms this powerful motivator, which gets more powerful all the time with the wider the net of people you have who have influence over you, but who don't know you?
Well, okay, so maybe picking up from like, Tulsi Gabbard, and I'm trying to, crystallize what you're saying here about, you hold on to these ideas. And I mean, am I tracking with you here where it's like, you're basically saying, people hold true to these ideas and it doesn't even matter if they're wrong. They're going to hold to these ideas no matter what. Or even if you try to break free from that, there's going to be this opposition from, I guess, either the people that you're trying to leave or trying to go to. And what makes it difficult to realize that some of these things are not working is that kind of like the gist?
Well, where I was going with the Tulsi Gabbard thing was, she was the darling of the Democratic Party. She immediately just was elected and walked right into the associate chair of the Democratic National Committee, something like that. She was the future, the spokesperson, all of the commentators, you just a supercut of all of these people on MSNBC and CNN talking about Tulsi Gabbard's going to be the next Democratic superstar, blah, blah, blah. Tulsi Gabbard comes out and says, I can't identify with this. I cannot be seen to identify with this party anymore. It's antithetical to everything I believe in. That is a person who had a tremendous sunk cost into the Democratic Party. I mean, it was her livelihood. It was her fame. She was carried around on the shoulders, I mean, she was it. And for her to say that the reality on the ground has either changed or I've seen things that were there before that I didn't see before, and therefore I've decided to change my mind, it's a sign of sanity. That's a sign of character.
Sure.
But I see so many of these people in these cities like Portland towns have just been destroyed by the politics that they voted for. Same with LA. We couldn't recall Gavin Newsom. We couldn't recall the city attorney who's made Los Angeles into a third world country. And I want to grab these people and shake them and say, what's it going to take?
Yeah.
And then I came to the realization that it's not just a spot decision, that they have an entire lifetime of identity invested in these labels like Democrat and liberal. And I don't know if anything is possible of shaking them out of it now.
I tell you what, man, I mean, the word tells us, we're going to be in these generations where, it says, woe to those that don't know good from evil, light from dark, bitter from sweet, man from trans. It says that. That's what's going to happen. People are they're going to be very dyslexic about these things, right? And, like for example, I just saw a video where, I guess it's today, and forgive me if I don't know the exact date, folks, but either today or tomorrow, Ashley Babbitt's birthday, right? So there was a memorial, on the steps, roses and stuff like that. I was going to celebrate her birthday. The police, the Capitol Police, they're standing there, right? And this girl comes over and she just as she's singing, F Ashley Babbitt, F her, calling her the C word, calling her the B word.
We're talking about Tulsi Gabbard. You're making a different case now, right? I'm talking about the politician.
Yeah, I'm coming into that in terms of like.
I'm sorry, man. The names were so familiar. I thought maybe we got confused.
Join the club, man. Join the club. But she's kicking over this stuff, and just singing F Ashley Babbitt, all that stuff, and the Capitol Police ain't doing nothing. They letting her do it. I mean, of course, it was the Capitol Police that killed Ashley Babbitt, so why would they do anything, right? But the thing is, what she's also saying is, F you, Ashley Babbitt, for trying to kill police. F you C word, you B word, for trying to overthrow this administration, and basically tell. I mean, to answer your question, Bill, when we talk about the dyslexia. It's like, how did y'all go from this belligerent nut who's up there desecrating this show of love that they have for Ashley Babbitt? So how did y'all go from F the police, defund the police, to F you, Ashley Babbitt, for trying to kill police? She should have been a hero to y'all.
Yeah.
But somewhere, the bottom line is that these people are confused about freaking everything. They don't know good from evil. They don't have
any internal. They don't have any internal values. It's all what's the current thing? What's the current thing for me to be angry at?
Absolutely. So to answer your question, yeah, she doesn't know where she stands with the police. She doesn't know where she stands with what's good or evil or what the government is doing, anything like that. Now, in terms of like how that translated, are people going to wake up and they're going to see what's wrong? Like even with Tulsi Gabbard, and I kind of butt heads. I know with conservatives about this because I'm kind of militant when it comes to people waking up to what the Democrat Party is, and like I said, it's not about waking up to what they do. It's about who they are. But waking up to what it is that they're doing, and then saying this isn't the Democrat Party that I once knew, and I'm like, what took you so long? This Democrat Party, man, they've always been like this. This is who they've always been. Now, you got some conservatives who will say that, yeah, but they're not like those old school Democrats. And I'm like, those old school Democrats was crazy too. You had some anomalies, some who were willing, and it's like they become like they become the tone that a lot of, Republican voters will view the old Democrat Party. Now, those people were anomalies. That wasn't the Democrat Party as a norm. And even though you may have had those more sensible Democrats, those are the Democrats who are prepared to play the long game. And the end result of what these Democrats are doing are the nuts that you're seeing today. They just fast tracked it to there. They're just who they are. Their true colors just came out. They came out of the closet, right? But if you're a Democrat and if you're really sensible, you wouldn't be a Democrat. The whole point of being a Democrat is to see our country as a democracy where you can have the power to vote away persons' God-given rights. That's what it is to be a Democrat. Some Democrats, they just don't register that and they think they're doing it for a good purpose and they have redeeming reasons for being a Democrat. It's like, no, you're a Democrat. You really believe that you can vote away what God gave us the right to. That's the difference between it being a democracy and a republic. So, I'm like one of those. It's like, there's some things that I like. If you're going to walk away from the Democrat Party only because you're disgruntled with the Democrat Party, then keep on walking. Because there's some standards. With a party of standards and values, there's some standards before you go calling yourself Republican, which I don't know if she is. I don't know. But that's my take on it.
Mm. Well, we're a few weeks away from a very important midterm election. Obviously, it's not just important for the mechanics of being able to stop this assault on, it's not even an assault on America anymore. So it's an assault on reality. It's an assault on truth. Everything now that the left is not just advocating, but insisting on is not just false, it's anti-true. I mean, it's antithesis of truth and reality. And so looking ahead and having watched the last couple of years and being amazed at the people that still wear their masks and amazed at the Newsom recall and the all of these things, I am, needless to say, very curious to know. And when I think about the upcoming election, I think, has enough of the country been hit hard enough by reality to change their mind, or did the beatings have to continue, until voting habits change? And I just don't know the answer to that. But I do know that the reality of life is under left-wing policies is not something that can be ignored. These are not trivial little things. That there are factual and violent demonstrations on a daily basis of what happens when you go down this road that the left wants us to go down. And so I hope that the time has arrived where enough Democrats anyway, because everything's a bell curve. It's not like a binary thing for the whole party. There are people like Tulsi Gabbard who've already decided, I've had enough of this, to see whether or not we can swing back to reality. And, I'm reminded, on times like this when it just seems so it's not even overwhelming so much as it's just mystifying. It's just
surreal.
Yeah. And Alexandra Solzhenitsyn said that one word spoken in truth outweighs the whole world, and that kind of thing gives me a lot of comfort in times like this. We'll find out soon enough, I guess. I wish they would unsync themselves. The whole thing about this is one of the most adult things you can do in your life is psychologically, and one of the hardest thing is to know when to cut your losses. Sure. The term cutting your losses is directly related to the sunk cost fallacy. Well, I can't stop gambling now. I'm 60 grand down. I got to get that 60 grand back. Yeah, but what's more likely is if you don't stop now, you're going to be 80 grand down, and then you'll be 200 grand down. Get out now and cut your losses. And I hope that that's what we'll be seeing, at least enough to make a difference in the national politics somewhere 3 weeks from now, I guess.
Right.
It'll do it for this edition of The Virtue Signal, made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com. Very grateful for your support. And for my friend Alfonzo Rachel, we'll see you next time right here on The Virtue Signal.